All right, so I am Daniel Forsberg, and I will be talking about New Kid and social isolation, particularly whether or not Jordan, the main character, exhibits these signs or whether it's just loneliness due to a new situation. Um, first we kind of have to answer what is social isolation. Um, And in her article on social isolation and loneliness, Allspach defines social isolation as a state in which the individual lacks a sense of belonging socially, lacks engagement with others, and has a minimal number of social contacts, and they are deficient in fulfilling and quality relationships. Um, so throughout the course of the story, Kraft kind of paints this picture of Jordan as going off to a new school, not really knowing any people. There's an ambiguous moment where you're not sure if he's lost his grandpa or not, but then, you come to find out he just moved to a different part of town. Um, and so, these are the things that really got me thinking, what is it that um, is going on with him? Is he just having a difficult time with this new situation, or is there a deeper underlying isolated issue? Because even with his parents at home, his mother doesn't quite agree with him going to art school, and he feels this weird separation between his parents as he's going to this new school and his dad who's been working really hard to get him there, and his mother's just lack of respect almost for what he wants to do with his life. So some of the causes and effects of social isolation, I've already mentioned some of Jordan's specific issues as far as causes go, and these can be pretty common. So for the course of this PowerPoint, we're gonna keep it as it is. Um, Specifically for Jordan in the context of the story, factors that contributed to his socially isolated tendencies. They include, his change in schools, his family's income, welfare, not welfare, financial aid is a big one that's mentioned in, the story as a sticking point, and there's this weird kind of shadow that dangles over the characters. And where he lived relative to the school also has an effect because, Jordan's from Crown Heights, not as quite a posh neighborhood as, some of his peers come in from. Um, and, of course, the whole race issue that's prevalent throughout the novel where different teachers are calling students by their wrong names, making physical assumptions on the athletic field, constantly questioning whether or not something they say is okay. And these things all kind of make Jordan feel like he's an outsider and he doesn't belong where he is. And that just kind of leads him to want to close himself off from change even more. According to Qualter, some of the effects that uh, social isolation can have is the interactive effect of loneliness at ages 5 and 9, um, is indicative of prolonged loneliness in childhood, and it also predicted depressive systems at age 13. So the longer, Jordan falling right around these ages, the longer that he goes with these issues, the more it can cause him problems farther down the road, um, you know, including his emotional health, his mental health, his ability to form just normal, healthy, everyday attachments. And according to Matthews and his fellows, at both primary and secondary school, children who were socially isolated, they experienced greater mental health difficulties. So there are studies that do back these claims. And some effects of isolation in Jordan. As we go throughout the text, we see Jordan deal with various issues of social isolation. For example, he roams through the school on his first day looking for his classes, describing himself as feeling lost and feeling alone, feeling lost and alone, on page 35. And at the start of the novel, the only person he really knows, and even then not too well, is Liam. And at first, he even feels isolated from Liam because when Jordan goes to leave his parents' apartment in Washington Heights, he sees the car, which I think is some kind of Range Rover or Mercedes Benz. And some of the other neighborhood kids see it as well, and they begin to talk about it. And Jordan ducks down and covers his head with his hood because now he's associated with wealth and status, which he technically doesn't think he has, but he also no longer entirely fits with his past friends because he's in the private school life. And, one of the big points that helps people get through social isolation and episodes of loneliness is having something to channel it with. A lot of people find the easiest way to cope with a problem is to give it some form of physical manifestation so that you can kind of take the problem and look at it from different angles and maybe try to solve the issue or come up with a solution to work toward resolving the issue. So Jordan, being the budding artist of his family, he depicts his worldview through his drawings, which Kraft shows on pages 8 and 9, 40 and 41, 70 and 71, 116 to 117, and 216 to 217 to name but a few. They're like center panels that really just draw the attention and give you a unique view into the kid's perspective. And other characters who don't appear to have these kind of outlets, such as Drew, they don't quite cope as well. And as the novel progresses, even toward the end, where Jordan finds resolution to his issues, they continue to feel lonely and like they don't belong and that they're in the wrong spot. Kate Kelly writes that kids deal with their loneliness in different ways. They may keep their sadness inside, pull away from others, and become even more isolated, or they may become angry and act out. Drew, in this case, gives several outbursts of outrage at different things that's going on, the mistaken names, the pressure to be on the athletic field, just ways his peers interact with him that don't quite sit right, that lead him to feel one-offed. Luckily for Jordan, though, as his semester at Riverdale does wear on, he begins to make new friends, and he stands up to the injustices that he and his peers face, and he makes his voice known. And he grows closer with Liam and Drew and a few others, and he even makes peace with Andy, the local problem child. And the creative outlet that he used to deal with his issues, it ultimately becomes one of his factors in alleviating it. He finds acceptance and recognition from his peers through the piece that he did that then became the yearbook cover. So, good for him. These are my sources. Ultimately, concluding thoughts for the presentation are, yes, for a brief period of time, I do believe that Jordan is socially isolated due to the different factors that I discussed in my earlier slides. And that as things wear on, it becomes less of an issue and he finds his acceptance. And yeah, that's my